Welcome everyone to our webinar on marketing and cross-border entrepreneurship. My name is Diederich Bakker. I'm really excited today to be hosting once again and to be participating in a webinar as part of our startup Ems-Dollart-Region project. And I'm very excited, number one, because I can talk about my main field, which is actually marketing. But I'm also really happy that we have Maryna, Burushkina, Philip Feldworth, and Jaffa Lotfi here today. Now, Maryna and Philip are Hanse alumni. Actually, I taught them the beautiful things in marketing. Some 8, 9, 10. Well, I think they graduated in 2012. So, some 10 years ago, they were still under our helm and are now, in the business world. Philip contacted us during our last event, and this is what's good about reaching out on our hand. Philip reached out to us and said, hey, we are working on a very interesting product and service. We are very active in the field of marketing for startups, and this could be interesting also for your project. And we discussed this at length and came to the agreement and idea that this is a really interesting topic to talk about and also to implement for two reasons. For helping startups to think about the relevance of marketing on the one hand, but also to see what it takes to grow a business and what it takes to start a business, what it takes to fail and maybe to get up again, to reach out, and the results are here. We have also a case study today that Maryna and Jaffa will present from Drenthe, Kabbex. And well, it's really a very mystique. It's about mood-based shopping. So we'll see what that really means. We'll find out in just a minute. Before I will start my little introduction on marketing and startups, I will just briefly present to you our project, because it's, not everybody knows exactly what we're doing, and just to get everybody on the same page. Interreg Germany, Netherlands. Interreg Germany, Netherlands is financing this and supporting this project with the aim, and this is what Interreg does in general, is to bring border regions, in this case, the north of the Netherlands and northwest Germany, together, culturally, economically, socially, and all different kinds of levels. And we have chosen the topic of entrepreneurship, and in particular startups, young entrepreneurship, we can also call this, to bring together and facilitate rather, an ecosystem that is beneficial for young entrepreneurs and startups on both sides of the border. And you can see on this map, on the Dutch side, Friesland, the provinces of Groningen and Drenthe. That's the Dutch side in this project. And Emsland, Ostfriesland, and Oldenburgerland. And what you can also see here are the 6 participating partners who are shaping this project. And in every region, in every 6 regions, one partner is, let's say, responsible. We are currently having the so-called startup Ems-Dollart-Region support office center in Groningen, and in a very short time, the responsibility will move over to Emden, and then it will come back to the Netherlands. So we are really trying to create an atmosphere of collaboration in young entrepreneurship, and that's what this project is about. Now, I promised you that I would speak a little bit and create an atmosphere that we are all level from the project's point of view, but from a marketing point of view. So I'm not going to teach you what marketing is, that is so boring, and that is really not what we need right now. But some of you, and maybe many of you, are actually familiar with the so-called lean startup model. And when you read that book, which I recommend for seasoned startup entrepreneurs, but also people who want to think, and also students think about starting a business, it's a really interesting methodology. When you read it, especially as a marketeer like I am, and as an academic, you recognize and you realize that it consists of many aspects that are related to marketing, or that are taking advantage of learnings from the marketing discipline. And it's all based, and I will make this very brief because we want to hear from the practitioners in just a minute. I want to just raise awareness about this model and what it means for starting up a business. And it's all centered around the build, measure, learn loop, which is a methodology, a very simple methodology. And later on, you will see also with Maryna's presentation, there are many aspects from this model also relevant in growth marketing, which is all about learning, changing, and adapting to circumstances. And we are, and this is very important to always emphasize, we are very interested in this from a cross-border international startup entrepreneurship perspective. So first of all, what you as a starting entrepreneur, and this is not only relevant for young entrepreneurs starting a company, this is also relevant for projects, for large organizations who are innovating in their field. You have a problem that you recognize, maybe as an entrepreneur, and you want to offer a solution. Now, the main question is, and this is already where marketing in its principles starts, is do consumers, that's the first question you have to ask yourself, do consumers recognize they have that problem that you are trying to solve? And then obviously, because you are hardly ever alone, if there was a solution, would they buy it from us? Would they buy it from my from my startup or from my business? That's the very, very first question that you have to ask yourself. Now, startups and also the big ones and also big companies often make the mistake to build ready products, to build prototypes that are so near to what they think is the right thing, that it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to create these prototypes or these products. And the lean startup methodology proposes not to start with a big, ready-to-go product or service, you can use that term synonymously, but start with the so-called minimum viable product. And so instead of building that ready, finished product and maybe waste a lot of time and money, and maybe then see it fail, wow, what a surprise. The lean startup methodology tells you to identify really in a process when you build that product, what is value creating and what can you throw away as waste. And it's an iterative cycle. You go back and forth. So you might have an idea, and it can be just an idea, and you try to find out by talking actually to consumers and to customers, users, whether it's B2B or B2C or B2B, what is creating value and what is actually not creating value. What is being accepted by your customers and what is not being accepted by your users. And you try to slowly move from an idea to a finished product and not build that product and then find out whether or not it is accepted and will be successful in the market. I want to show, just illustrate a few examples, and you will see very soon from Dropbox, Facebook, and Tesla what I mean by this and what lean startup actually means by this. So see a startup as a catalyst that transforms ideas into products or services. As customers interact, this is actually a direct quote, with those products, they generate feedback and data, qualitatively and quantitatively. Startups and their products should be seen as experiments, and at the end of the feedback, learn and change loop. So that's that loop that I described in the beginning. Startups become sustainable businesses. So what is that MVP, for instance? What did it mean for Dropbox? We all know Dropbox, and probably 90% in this call, in this meeting today, are using Dropbox. It is a very, very complex technology that is running on multiple platforms, whether it is a Mac, a PC, an iPhone, and Android. So you're sharing files on all your devices, which is very complicated. And they could have built this technology and then sold it and tried to gain subscribers. What Dropbox actually did, they realized, and they didn't make that mistake, their MVP, their minimum viable product, was they actually made a short 1-minute film about the product. So they didn't have a product, they just had an idea, and they knew they could do it, but they didn't program it and make it to perfection. they just made a small little film, like those animated films. And that one they showed to so-called early adopters, the ones that are keen to find out, that are also happy with a version of a product that is only 80% ready. And they showed it to them. And within, I think the legend says, within one day, they had 80,000 subscribers from early adopters. So what you want those people then to do is spread the news about this product, and it grows. And Dropbox is worth several billions. Now, Facebook is a different story, and it's very famous. There's even movies about it. And this is coming a little bit closer now to the topic of growth marketing. So I'm trying to set the stage for our speakers in just a minute. Facebook was a social media platform, and there were many others that were already big at the time, that was used only in one or two university campuses. But what they saw, and this is interesting also from a financial point of view, what they saw at Facebook is people came back and they spent a lot of time on Facebook. And that really convinced venture capitalists to invest, because they really needed the money to really build Facebook. So that was their minimum viable product, understanding just on a few campuses that it worked and that people spent a lot of time and came back. That's what you want from customers, right? You want them to come back and spend time with you when it's a social media platform. Last example from a big company, and this applies just as an example to any idea, to any product, to any service. What Tesla does is they have what they call, or what the lean startup model calls, they have the smoke test. What you see here is the Tesla Roadster. That car doesn't exist, but people can sign up for it and actually reserve one. They have to pay a small amount, maybe 5,000 or 10,000 euros, which is not small, but comparatively speaking. And Tesla and other companies also for services and apps can see and measure how successful and how useful people think this service, in this case, this car is. It's a concept. It's not there yet. It's not built. It doesn't. There might be a prototype sitting in some hall, but people are buying an idea, and they're buying an image, and they're buying performance, but they don't buy the product yet. And companies can then understand with this smoke test whether or not, how big the demand is, and how big people think this idea will become a success. Smoke test. So start very small with an idea like Dropbox, make it into a movie, and then see how people are reacting to that, instead of building the technology completely up to perfection, then finding out we just wasted a lot of time and also emotions, which is, when you fail, you always fail emotionally, which can be very hard. So trying to build a bridge now into our cross-border context. So every product, every feature, every marketing campaign, everything a startup does should be seen as an experiment designed to achieve validated learning. So you go in, you test, you go back, you change. You find waste, you get rid of the waste, you find value, you keep the value. And this is what you do by talking to customers and getting their feedback. What I learned when I started in advertising is go out, if you have a client, go out into the marketplace and do a store check. Where is the product sold? What do consumers think and do? How do they choose? How do they compare when they stand in front of the shelf? It's also, from a methodological point of view, very difficult when you have an idea to test the idea in market research. Very difficult, because consumers fail to imagine, and you cannot really explain very well how a product might be working unless you are an early adopter. So the lean startup methodology is really focusing on these early adopters and then seeing from there how products and services can take off. Now, in a Dutch, German, it could also be a Dutch, French, in any international context. So how does the customer on the other side of the border differ? There are differences. These are obviously stereotypes that I'm showing here. Do customer journeys take other routes if it is a digital or an online business? Where do early adopters hang out? Where do you find them? definitely different in the Netherlands and in Germany. And there are some parallels probably. And what marketing program leads to higher conversion rates? I have just the last example that I did with Google together for Priceline, where they showed their website of the year button on one version of their landing page, and the other version was without the website of the year award button. And the conversion rate with the button on an A/B test, so every other visitor on the landing page was either landing on A and B, and they compared. The conversion rate with the button of website of the year was 80% higher than without the button. So testing, learning, wasting, and so on. And I know, because I talked to Maryna before a few times, that she will also talk about content on web pages and the differences in Germany and the Netherlands. So I hope this gives you kind of an idea on the marketing aspects, especially for startups, especially for new products, what you have to look out for and what you have to really pay attention to, small steps, and then have that cycle and that loop coming back and forth. So what I would like to do now is, hopefully you're a little bit in the mood for marketing and for also a little bit of cross-border thinking. I would like to now open the floor to our next speakers and close this presentation, and then have Maryna take over the floor and start with her presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Bakker. That was a great introduction, and I hope everyone can hear me and see my screen. How is that going? Is everyone okay? You can just say yes in the chat window, yes. For example.
Yes.
Okay, awesome, great. So yeah, today I want to tell you a little bit about growth marketing and show you some actionable examples and give you some ideas that hopefully will inspire your own startup growth as well, and the tactics. So yeah, let's jump right in. At Growth Channel, we are focusing specifically on the growth marketing aspect of experimentation, A/B testing, and optimization, and applying that to marketing planning. So the part where you are still trying to identify your strategy, your positioning, and your market. So why care about growth marketing anyway? As Mr. Bakker introduced, the approach of experimentation and continuous learning and the waste part is really important, and it's not only applicable for the product and the startup as a company, but also to the marketing. And it's really important to consider it because today the competition is growing every single day. Like, for example, we're talking about Dropbox. I started using it, and I think it just launched when I was still a student, and I think it was like one of the first ones in the market. Well, today you have SharePoint, we have Google Drive, we have Box, and so many other alternatives. So the competition in the digital environment is just popping up almost every single day, depending on your industry and the segment. So you really have to innovate and find new ways to experiment and grow your startup. On the other side, you also have your customers and their growing user expectations. Because of the digital environment, nowadays, they just want more features, they want more benefits. They might actually see some other cool new activity that your competition is doing and then realize, hey, you guys don't have it. Why do I pay you instead of your competitors, and leave? So you definitely want to consider that aspect as well. And this is just an ever-growing market. So it's really important to consider this experimentation loop. There is a company actually in the Netherlands called Growth Tribe Academy, and they specifically teach a growth marketing approach. And they have identified this concept of experimentation that's presented on this graph. So it includes data and testing, because you would, of course, want to see through your experiments and tests and validate those with data and actual facts. There's a point of creative marketing, right, where you have to come up with ideas and brainstorm in your team. There is a part with tools and automations to make sure that you have more streamlined processes and you're effective and efficient. And then there is this behavioral psychology. So this is a part where you can look and identify how consumer behavior is changing in different aspects, and what are the different triggers that make people change and impact their decision making. So this is a concept that they came up with, and how they also describe the difference between digital marketing, which is more commonly known, and growth marketing, is that in the digital marketing world, we would normally focus on the top of the funnel. So this is where we would do activation campaigns to actually attract leads and customers to our company. And in the growth marketing approach, you're actually focusing on the whole funnel. So everything from awareness campaigns to branding to conversion, and then also retaining those customers and bringing them closer to becoming those advocates and ambassadors for your brand. So it actually covers the whole cycle. And at Growth Channel, we also converted it to our own scope. So at Growth Channel, we have the 6-step approach, which covers the trigger. So this is the part where your customers might not know yet if they have a real problem. And there's more of a convincing that needs to happen to really show and tell them the story of, okay, this is what our company does. The awareness stage is when, okay, they know they have a problem, but they're not yet actively looking for the solution. So you still need to educate them about different ways to solve their problem. In the consideration phase, your customers know they have a problem, they're looking for a solution, and they're asking maybe their friends for recommendations. They might be looking at different review sites or directories or aggregator sites. In the conversion phase, they are ready to buy or sign up. So this is the part where, generally speaking, you would have your website and you would attract your people come to it, and then you would have some kind of registration form through which they would register and complete this step of the journey. The delight step is really important, and that part actually covers the retention. So this is how happy is your customer. It also includes customer support. It includes all the aspects of them interacting with your product or service. And then in the advocate step is your ultimate goal is to make them become your ambassadors. So to make sure that they actually share their experience about your product or service with their friends, with their network, to make sure there is a word of mouth in this viral loop. So here are also some examples that we use at Growth Channel within our tool. So different channels and tactics that can be applied for different steps of the customer journey. I'll actually share the slides afterwards so you can look into the details. We also have a case study, which in most probably a minute or so, Kabbex is going to tell you about. And there we focused specifically on awareness, consideration, and conversion phases of the journey. So we'll dive into more details of these 3 elements. Why is it important to experiment? Is because, again, you want to allocate all your marketing resources, which are always limited, right? In terms of the budget, the team, the hours, only to what had proven to work. So you really want to make sure that you test on a smaller sample size first. And then when you see that, okay, you have validated the results with test, let's say A from your experiment, then you can actually allocate more budget and more resources to working further along it. And it can be applied to product development or marketing or actually anything else within your startup. So through eliminating this guesswork, which means that you definitely want to have the data behind and set the metrics in advance. Okay, what are you trying to achieve? For example, let's say we want to achieve conversion results, and how are you going to measure it? Are you going to measure it with maybe number of registrations? And what is your target? Exactly. So let's say we want to reach 1,000 registrations within 1 week. So that would be actually measurable results. So we definitely want to look at the data and facts when analyzing, and instead of stereotypes, instead of just guessing, okay, what might happen if I do this? So you definitely want to apply experiments to everything you do if you're planning to spend a lot of time and resources on something. So testing, optimizing, learning, and repeating the cycle on an ongoing basis is very, very important. And within the marketing scope, for especially digital marketing, there are tools, for example, like Google Optimize that you can use for free and there are opportunities to run 16 experiments at once on their free account. So definitely recommend checking it out. And I'll post it later also in chat for you guys if you're interested to look into more details. And yeah, I just want to really pass the floor to Kabbex team to tell more about their solution, what they're doing, and then I'll continue with the case study.
Thank you, Maryna. Hello, everyone. My name is Jafar, and I'm part of Kabbex team. I don't know if you hear me clearly. Actually, I'm glad to be here and to introduce Kabbex to you. We are a mood-based commerce company. As a SaaS startup based in the Netherlands, we are under acceleration program of 0 to 1. And our solution is a simple plugin that you can put it into your e-commerce. And then we are able actually to allow the users to give us feedback on their mood simply by checking a couple of emoticons or turning on their camera. It helps actually online retailers to solve, low conversion or low loyalty of their customers, because mood-based personalization brings higher engagement. We found that people are more likely to buy things when they are personalized based on their mood. We have started in 2019, and actually we integrated and tested our platform with Amazon and Spotify. As I explained, there are a couple of problems on online retail sector that we solve them with our solution: product discoverability, product return and refund, and customer lifetime value. About product discoverability, there are too many products to be shown to the customers. Imagine only on Amazon, there are 12 million products to be displayed for the different customers. On the other hand, there are too many options for online shoppers. So customers are less loyal to the brands, and they are just turned as offer hunters. It's resulted to higher product return and refund and lower customer lifetime value. So our solution helps online retailers to get higher engagement, higher order value, lower product return and refund, and lower abandoned shopping carts. Thank you for your time. I leave the rest to Maryna. So I'm here actually if you have any question about Kabbex. By the way, I wanted to add, the reason we started actually discussion with growth channel was that our solution was the first of its kind in the market. So we were not sure about our target customers. We wanted to have a complete profile of our target customers. So in that regard, we asked growth channel actually for helping us in that regard. Thank you for your time. Maryna, it's your time. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So yeah, talking about Kabbex case study, they have so many great features and use cases. But for this specific case study, we focused on fashion webshop founders. So maybe you can also put the landing page to your a link to the landing page in the chat actually for the audience to check it out. So the two personas that we identified in the tool were Ahmed, who is actually a shop owner from Germany, and he's also a designer himself. So he's a fashion designer and he has his own web shop. He has great traffic on the website, so it's an existing, let's say, retailer or e-commerce company, but he has trouble converting those that traffic into sales. So basically, the conversion rates need to be improved and return on investment from his online presence. So this is one of the personas. And another important persona here is Imke, who is a salesperson from the Netherlands, and she's got great experience with e-commerce, but mainly on third-party sites such as Amazon, eBay, Facebook Marketplace, Marktplaats, Bol, and other. And now she wants to set up her own web shop where she can also keep more revenue. But at the same time, she's lacking the experience of setting it up, and she wants to definitely set it for success. And as a salesperson, she's also looking for tools and technologies that can help her automate some of those processes too, to make sure that her online presence actually converts in the digital environment too. So those are two main personas. There is another third persona that will come up shortly in a few slides. But that's some of the market for this specific landing page. And actually, please do ask questions or interrupt in the chat as well if you want to just pop something. So that's cool too. Here, I also want to share with you one of the, let's say, closer competitors in the market. When we assess the competition, and also this is something that we recommend to our customers to do, is not only look at your direct competitors, but also look at alternatives in the market that your potential customers could use instead of your own product. So for example, before Dropbox came in, right? What were we using? We were just sending things by email, right? We were just sharing it by email or text messages, which was just a very let's say, not a very efficient way, but this was an alternative, just sharing it via text or email. And then Dropbox came in where you could actually copy links or invite people to your shared folders. So this is the main difference. So in here, Attract, actually they have personalized journey and shopper experience that they provide. That's also their tool. And their growth strategy is mainly focused on search, partnerships, and content. They don't do much on social media. They don't do much on the paid activation, but they really focus on optimizing their online presence for search engines organically. They focus on strong partnerships via integrations, agencies, and also content, so different resources that can help educate their end audience and customers, those e-commerce companies and web shops, about the importance of personalization, of website personalization, and also about how you can actually improve your sales and conversions on your websites. So resources and education is very important. Now, based on this and some of the other competitors in the market, the journey of channels and direction for the content for Kabbex was also identified for the 3 steps that were in focus for this case study: the awareness, consideration, and conversion. So during the awareness phase, which is more top of the funnel, it's really important to educate people about the solution, especially if your solution is the first mover in the market. Some of the channels recommended here, also based on the competitive analysis, as well as the actual personas profile. So what channels do they use to consume content? Those are YouTube videos, Instagram stories mainly, Facebook communities, Pinterest boards, especially shared boards, then different events that they attend within the industry for e-commerce, retail, and fashion industry, as well as SMB events locally. And then there are also word of mouth, PR, and podcasts. Moving further to the consideration phase, when they already know that they have a problem and they're actively looking for a solution, they're looking at different blogs, reviews, product recommendations, and case studies, as well as turning to Google search to look for potential solutions. For example, how to increase my conversion rate on my e-commerce store, or alternatively, which tools can I use for website personalization? So those could be some of the keywords. They're actually a whole batch, I think 100 keywords that is there, but we are not going to go so much into detail. Other channels which are also important during consideration phase here is a live chat option, and of course your website where they're going to actually consume lots of content. The main piece in the consideration is the social proof. So being it the friends' recommendations or testimonials, could be case studies, ratings, or reviews, especially the ones that are on third-party aggregator sites such as Trustpilot or similar ones. They're really important, like G2, for example, for B2B SaaS solutions, where actually people go to review different software solutions if they know already that they need actually a software or a tool to solve their problem. After consideration comes the conversion phase of the journey. And here you can actually run LinkedIn advertising with specifically lead generation ads. You can also look into in-mail campaigns as well as sales automation, because you're also targeting here B2B for this specific case study. But for B2C, it might not be as relevant. So you definitely want to consider if this channel is actually relevant for my business. Other channel that came up here, which was very interesting, was WhatsApp. I was very surprised to see it here, but it seems like WhatsApp actually is even more used than Facebook in both Germany and Netherlands. But for different purposes, of course. It's mostly for messaging directly to people, but some brands also are using it for the actual chat solution with customer support, for customer support. So this is something that could be also considered here. There are also in-app and web notifications, as well as scene recommendations specifically for German market as a LinkedIn alternative, which seems to have a decline in terms of the usage compared to a few years ago, but is still a recommended channel specifically for this audience. And then there is email campaigns, and email is also still one of the top, or actually the top B2B conversion channel. Also in Europe. So definitely once you capture the lead with their interest, maybe via a demo, a request, or even like a white paper or a fact sheet, it can be a report or a case study. Definitely do set up follow-up workflows if you can. There are tools you can use for free, for example, HubSpot free CRM tool, to set those up and make sure that you can actually map the journey of a customer and do the specific follow-up messages based on whether they opened email or clicked a specific link within an email to specific content, to then make sure that they eventually convert or bring them closer to that conversion step eventually. So that's really important. So in the conversion step, you definitely want to give some kind of information that will help them make that final decision. So it could be, like I mentioned, white paper, a case study, fact sheet, demo request, or anything similar in that regards. Before I proceed to the next few slides, is more about some of the great examples in the industry for different components for the landing page. I want to check in and see if you guys have any questions or you want to jump in any of the details. Okay, I see something here, so that's great. We have some questions. I actually see lots of questions. Okay, let's see. Have I heard of Mindtrace from Nijmegen? Okay, that's different. How do you know that LinkedIn works? How do you find out? Okay, that's a great question. So we find out that LinkedIn works is based on our tool integration between search and social media, where within social media we map the personas and then identify which channels do they use on a weekly basis and where they are most active on. So LinkedIn pop up here mainly for the salesperson persona, not as much for the fashion persona. But for the sales persona, so the woman is already using LinkedIn for her other activities. So because of her prominent presence on the channel, it's recommended to consider it to actually reaching her as a persona here as well. So definitely, in order to define the channels that would work for you, you want to look into, okay, which channels people use, the ones that you're trying to target, and then look into also what kind of content they consume on those channels, whether it's actually relevant to address that channel with that specific content that you're trying to present to them. Okay. Does your tool also identify competitor ads on LinkedIn? We don't check competitor ads on LinkedIn specifically, but we do check the competitor ads across the web. There was not too many ads that Attract was running or two of the other mentioned competitors. There were actually some ads which were very interesting that another bigger kind of player in the market was focusing on. So they're more like enterprise focused, but we still wanted to see more data for the industry. So we also looked at that. And yeah, so they're running lots of interesting ads, display ads and text ad campaigns. So yes, our tool identifies those as well. Can you explain how you come up with personas? Yeah, so personas is really more about connecting the search with keywords, data that is scraped from landing page and the keywords that are shared during the onboarding questionnaire when you start using our tool, and then mapping that to the social profiles. So like, for example, if you go to LinkedIn, right, you can filter your search to identify different people. So in the questionnaire during the onboarding with our tool, we ask a few questions in terms of identifying the demographic profile of the user. So for example, their age or gender or what kind of interests they have, or if they have a specific title or industry they work in. So we automatically run those filters, and then we have, let's say, 10,000 people as search results. And then our tool groups them into segments, and then those become personas. So this is how it works in the backend, more technically. So those are actual people. How work on growth or where to work even if you did not have good numbers to test on? I'm not sure exactly about the question, but yes, if your numbers are still low, you might want to do different type of experiments. So let's say if you have 10 website visits a week, then most probably it will take very long time to achieve any sort of experimentation there. So what you might want to try, instead of automated experiments, you can actually ask people for feedback through interviews. So in this very early product stage, it's good to onboard and have some of the interviews in place with potential end customers. And when you ask for feedback, you also definitely don't want to say, oh, hey, here's my website. What do you think? No, you definitely want to share the link with them and let them go through the journey, let them share the screen with you. And then you look into, okay, where they figure out, okay, this is a nice call to action, I'm going to click on it. Or where do you see that their kind of eyebrows are going up and they have no clue what the message and your content is saying? So definitely look into those opportunities. And if you're looking for product growth experimentation specifically, you also want to check out the MOM test. It's actually a book that tells you how to ask the right questions without leading people to have the outcome answer that you want to have. So let them share about their challenges, their experience, their problems, and potential ways that they're looking to improve their everyday life, which can then turn into becoming an opportunity for your product or service. Rather than asking, hey, I'm building this, what do you think? Then they'll say, yes, it's a great idea, because they want to support you. So yeah, definitely check the MOM test. So I'm going to type it here. It's a great book. It's a very small book as well, very short. So good read to identify those opportunities for experimentation during user testing interviews if you don't have enough data yet to work with automatically. How has Corona affected or changed your business? and what long-lasting effects do you foresee? Yeah, we actually launched our product during COVID in July. So we are kind of COVID type of a startup here. So it's very different also for us. It has definitely impacted the budget when it comes from enterprise companies, but we also have seen lots of digital focused startups coming through, which became our customers. We definitely see a decline and overall maybe lack of enthusiasm when it comes from maybe like enterprise companies directly or SMBs who have cut their budget, who are existing companies. But in the startup community, we see lots of innovation, and it doesn't seem like COVID is stopping the startup world much. It's mostly, I think, affecting SMBs and bigger enterprise budgets when it comes to marketing. We also work with agencies, and for them, it's also actually hasn't been impacted too much. So I think identify opportunities in your market. So I'm sure that there are some opportunities that can be found. The other day I saw on the news that a travel company just raised 150 million and just pivoted their product instead of basically selling tickets to offering some kind of online platform for hospitality industry. So there are definitely opportunities in the market. You just need to look deeper. Okay, great questions. So I'll jump into a few examples. So when we looked at the industry of e-commerce personalization websites and those platforms, we looked at some of the growth tactics from competition that can be used and applied for Kabbex or even for your own company, just looking at the concept of them. So the first one is social proof. So definitely look into presenting clear case studies, sharing who your clients are. Even if you have external ratings, those are the best because the ratings and reviews from third-party platforms are seen as more legible and give much more credibility than your own testimonials on your website, which is still good to have. But if you have third-party reviews, that's even better. So these are a few examples to consider for social proof. It can be very easily added to the website in most cases as well. So that's one. Another one is partnerships. Also for us, specifically partnerships have been a great opportunity for growth. So definitely recommend exploring that part. So within the competition, partnerships can be in different scenarios. So the first example here are actually integrations. And yes, integrations can be a great opportunity to present on your website because especially if you're a startup, maybe you're also focusing on small businesses like Kabbex does. You might not, as a customer, potential customer, recognize any of the logos, neither Kabbex nor any of your customers. But if you know that, okay, I'm using HubSpot and maybe I'm also using Shopify and your tool actually integrates with those two, I'm like, hey, this is great. I can start using it right away and have all my data integrated. On top of that, you can also create content and then have this kind of co-promotion in place. We do that also at Growth Channel with our marketplace, Growth Library, with different tools as well that we cooperate with agencies and so on. So that works great because when we share content and tag our partners, they would share it as well. And then if there are bigger partners, they of course also have more followers, more reach, and then the message goes much wider than just you sharing it. Then here from the competition as well, they focus on agency partners. So that's a great way because instead of going for each of SMBs separately, they basically cooperate with one agency that maybe works with 100 different companies or maybe even 10, doesn't matter. But if you onboard one agency and show them how to use your platform, they can bring your tool to be used by 10 other companies or even more. So you have more margin here and also wider reach through that opportunity. And the third one in here is also if you're a certified app, let's say if you're listed on Shopify or if you're listed, let's say if you have a plugin for WordPress or anything similar in that regard, definitely consider that as well. So that's also a great opportunity. as well as events. Events could be another opportunity, or different communities that you're a part of, or even accelerators. So showing that on the landing page can also give more credibility for end customers during their consideration phase. Then another tactic here are the lead magnets, which are especially important for the conversion phase of the customer journey. So some of the competitors here are sharing the report, The Future of Retail. It's very important. Everyone wants to be on top of the agenda and know exactly what's happening in the industry and be one of the first ones to implement the next big thing that's going to give me more sales. And once I click the download now, it will definitely prompt me for some contact information. And then they're going to email me a few times until I must probably buy something from them or reach the end of the sales workflow. Another example here from Justuno is the CRO analyzer. So this one most probably will give me a very nice report instantly, which I'm going to be very impressed about, with some good numbers and data points. And at the end, have a very nice call to action if I want more, to leave my contact details again, or sign up for the platform or for the demo. So this is another tactic that can be used to improve the conversions on the landing page. And the last example here, or actually pre-last example, showing the clear value. So this is very, not maybe as straightforward as the other ones, but it's often seen that people are talking on their landing page about different features or technology that's being used to provide the solution, but rather they should be focusing on the benefits that their customer gets. And if you have especially like some people already using your tool and have clear numbers showcasing the results, that's always helpful. And so definitely put it on top of the landing page, above the fold, so before a user scrolls down, and clarify exactly what are those benefits that I'm going to get from using the platform. Here, there are three main components here also in this block. So bigger numbers and then some explanation text underneath, definitely recommended. Not recommend more than 4, because then it becomes too busy. And a person is just like, the eyes will be going everywhere and not being able to focus. So that's the behavioral psychology, right? The focus is really important. Sometimes the less, the merrier, instead of the more. So you definitely want to focus on the ones that really matter and give clear information and the value. And the last here is the visual preview. So this one is definitely more for the awareness stage and consideration. So if you are like a SaaS platform or like a software, or if there is any visual aspect to your product, you definitely want to showcase exactly what that means to the user. To if you want them to sign up to use some kind of a software platform, or even if you want them to purchase some goods, definitely show what exactly that looks like on your landing page, so then the user can set certain expectations. And also it increases nicely the chances of them converting when you have your call to action on the landing page. So these are a few examples that I wanted to share specifically for this case study. Don't know if you guys have any questions before we proceed further. No, okay, great. Let's proceed then. Some very prominent differences between the countries when we look at Germany and Netherlands specifically is the emphasis on the platforms that people use for e-commerce here. So while Amazon seems to be much more widely used in Germany, in the Netherlands, it becomes more of Marktplaats, Bol, or even Facebook. So those are very different channels that people focus more on for different things that they do on a daily basis. So definitely when you identify your persona and the market, do consider the channels, as this is a very important part of your strategy. Another very specific difference is the local information. So it looks like the Dutch are much more open for, let's say, not even having like the address always listed on the landing page. So that's not always important for them, and can be much more of an international landing page. So English is also widely accepted, but in the German market, which seems to be a little bit more traditional, they definitely want to have more contact information mentioned on the landing page. They even prefer to have this direct contact number in case they have any questions, which can also actually increase your conversion rates. It shows if you have a phone number on your landing page, it can significantly increase conversion rates, especially for the German market. So do put it there, whatever your business is. And yeah, they also appreciate to have this local business information in terms of address. If you're a GmbH, definitely mention the registration there, name, and sometimes even this impressum information. That's also very important for the German market. Consider Zing in addition to LinkedIn B2B outreach. We kind of covered it in the channels overview as well for the customer journey. It's not as used in the Netherlands. Maybe also if it is used, it's maybe mostly used by the German audience, maybe like expats. But yes, there are slightly different channels when it comes to the German market. And when you do focus on German market, definitely consider having a language switch for German language. That's really important. The conversion rates improve by up to 60% for German market if the landing page is in the local language. For Dutch market, it's not as important. The difference in conversion rates is insignificant. So having it in English can still be very much okay for that market. So these are some of the very prominent differences that I wanted to share with you. Of course, there are many more, but really wanted to focus on these ones specifically for this case study. Just looking at another example that maybe all of you know is Airbnb. And I just want to wrap up the session with mentioning one very important element here, which I kind of touch based on, but not as much as I would like to, is actually the growth metrics. So really identifying the metrics that are most important for measuring your success. So if you're focusing on, let's say, Airbnbs, they're looking at rebook rate, nights booked per user, and then also active hosts and bookings per active host. So these are the metrics that really identify the retention and active usage of their platform. And it's really important to make sure that you spend time identifying the right metrics for your business for different steps of the journey, because those are the ones that will eventually lead you to success. If you identify the wrong metric and will optimize the wrong metric, you will most probably not succeed or not succeed as fast as you could. And what's important here is also when you do A/B testing or multivariate testing, any type of experimentation, pick also the right period for your experimentation cohort. So sometimes if you are experimenting with different discounts or special offers, seasonal campaigns such as like Christmas or Easter might be okay, but otherwise those seasonalities might also affect your results and performance results, and also might not have the right impact on the actual A/B test to compare and make proper conclusions on that experiment. So definitely consider the timeline and identify this initial user action within each period of experimentation that you're going to be considering as well. So where did the user come from? What kind of background was there? So do consider different elements of those type of things when you do run experiments. And if you're a startup with not much data, interviews could be a good way to run experiments as well, or even looking at, let's say, if you have, I don't know, 50 customers, let's say, or 50 users, you might also just set up those sessions with them, or just actually install Hotjar or Mixpanel Analytics to really look at what they're doing on your platform. And you can also derive good conclusions if you're talking about the whole population, basically, of your user base. So there are some free tools that all of them are free, actually easy to install. I'll drop links in chat for you guys to check out in a bit after I finish as well. Some other good resources for you to consider on this topic is a growth library. So this is our tool where we put together a compilation of different templates. We have educators there listed, preferred agencies, tools, with lots of different special offers and discounts as well through our partnership network that you can consider for your growth marketing campaigns. I also put a link here to Growth Tribe Academy that I covered earlier in the session. They're basically an educator on this growth marketing and experimentation specifically. There is Marketing Examples website, which I absolutely love. It gives great insights into some of the best branding and content campaigns by bigger brands and what you can learn from them. And then we also put a compilation of growth marketing tactics. There are about 230 of them now, and you can browse through them every day on also a free account. It's also a great resource, and a few communities that you can consider joining to discuss different ideas, ask questions, fellow entrepreneurs and marketers as well. So I'm open for questions. I'll drop some links now in chat as well, but I'm sure you guys wanna know some more details. So let's see what we have in questions. Can you measure conversion rates for every market and country? Can you clarify the question? So do you mean like, can we track the conversion rates, or can we set the conversion rate benchmarks for every market and country? So it's basically like, if you can definitely track conversion rates for every market and country. So tracking, yes. But in terms of, let's say, competitive analysis, it really depends on the amount of data. So for example, if we do it via our tool, we definitely need at least 1,000 sessions per website to have any data available for specific segments. So let's say if you're looking at Germany for last month, we definitely need to make sure that that specific website had at least 1,000 sessions for us to be able to derive any results or any additional actually insights. How do I identify the right metrics? Yeah, identifying the right metrics is really hard, and it comes from, okay, what is your objective and where are you exactly in your let's say startup or in your product development. So let's say if you are pre-product, then you might want to set some kind of registrations maybe, or demo requests as your key metric, as your key performance indicator. If you are, let's say, if you just launched and you're in private beta, only a few customers using your tool and it's a closed environment, you might want to consider things like how many bugs have been submitted, what is the average session, how many active users per day and per week you have, what's the bounce like, those kind of things. At Growth Channel, we right now are measuring our MRR, which is monthly recurring revenue, and we also focus on churn rate. So churn rate means also how many users are canceling and basically deleting their account. So you want to keep that one low. We also look at weekly active users. So that is basically how many users in the last 7 days were active on the platform, and then also the average session duration on the platform itself. So how much time per user spent on average within the app. So those are the ones that we use. Every startup is different, so you definitely want to identify your own metrics and see what's important for you. Okay, I just learned from our regional support office that all people, okay. So yeah, do you guys have any other questions? I'm happy to answer. We also have a special offer for you guys today. So if you want to consider using Growth Channel, we give 15% off. You can simply use a code Startup EDR at the checkout on any plan before end of March this year. To get the discount in place, you can contact either me or Philip with information right here on the slide with any questions, or if you have like a follow-up, or if you want a demo even, happy to share that with you as well. I'll drop links to some of the tools I just mentioned for user sessions, but also will pass the floor back to organizers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maryna. Very good. We can really see how involved you are and how knowledgeable you are, especially in the digital landscape. And I assume many of our visitors today, are also very competent in that sense. So it's not so difficult for all of you to understand what Maryna was actually talking about. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think the core lesson, which builds exactly on hopefully also what I try to bring across today, is get rid of the guesswork. I think that's also what you said, Maryna. Get rid of the guesswork and work, whether it's an idea or a project or a product or a web page or a shop, or in Kabbex's case, finding, understanding the competition, but also understanding your user and your potential customer, in this case in Germany, how they look like, where they go, what they do, and don't go out there with a guess, but more than an educated guess, if that's the right word to say. Yeah, let me just invite others to participate, and the floor is open, so we can use this panel. It's probably one thing I should say briefly. Do get in touch with Maryna and also Philip, and if you have more questions, and also if you're interested in the service there, I think you guys run on a monthly fee. I think that's how it works, but and it's fairly reasonable without being your marketing agent. But I think it's an interesting model also to see, and it's very useful. So anyone, please come and participate in the discussion. We're happy to discuss and talk with you guys.
Otherwise, I might take over while the people are writing the questions. Hi, guys. Also, hello from my side. I'm Philip, the commercial advisor, or let's say the guy taking care a little bit of business development topics. Like Mr. Bakker said, I'm also ex-alumni from Hanse, and I reconnected with Maryna, let's say, during the last year, because I wanted to find something out in addition to my traditional job. And I had the pleasure to join the team mid of last year, or let's say Q3 of last year. And what I can also mention from my experience is that it is a steady process that we are in. So means everyone has its expertise, and it's really important to be as flexible as possible. And that is what we are experience on a daily basis. Means first of all, we get the feedback from our customers that are asking for different features, additional features, etc. And then we try to incorporate it in the best possible way in our product. That is one point. And of course, also the product wise, we try to adjust according to the needs in the market. Yeah, so it might be slightly different in the Netherlands than in Germany. So also product wise, you might have smaller adjustments so that the audience is more attracted to it. So also during that process, within the last, let's say 6 months, we had already a couple of changes in the product development, which is super interesting, and the dynamics are just amazing to see in that world. Yeah, and whenever you have questions marketing related, just want to have a look at it, or just exchange on ideas, then of course feel free to drop us a message, and we will organize something.
Yeah, thanks, Philip, for rounding that part off. How do you you just mentioned it's a dynamic environment. So since we talk about guesswork and testing and a minimum viable product, how do you guys deal with it? Because your product is changing, it's probably still developing. Is there anything we preach and preach what you pray, and or the other way around? How do you deal with that?
maybe product-wise, it would be best if Maryna answers that question. I can just say that we're a remote team working in Europe and US. So it is really important to have a proper communication between the different areas within the company. So it means product part, strategy part, and also commercial part. Because in the end, all of that areas need to come together in order to develop the product. So it doesn't make sense to just have the product focus and develop without having it tested in the market. And it also doesn't make sense to just go out and sell it. So it always has to be the mixture of. So what I can tell from my side is we are communicating with our customers, having case studies, tests whatsoever, and then also bringing back that sales experience or sales feedback from the customer back to the product team, to Maryna's team, which then incorporates it. That is what I can say from my side. And Maryna, maybe you want to add.
Yeah, actually, that was a great introduction, Philip, and hi, everyone. There I am. So, yeah, indeed, we are also a startup and we're also following the lean model. So we are using Slack actually for our communication for the team. And we also have Trello for project management to make sure that everything is seamless in terms of efficiency of the team. But also whenever we get feedback from a customer, if it's a bug, for example, it goes into our app QA channel, and we do run in 2 sprints per week. So every Monday and Wednesday, we actually launch another iteration of the tool. So either upgrades or just optimizations on the go. So that are some of the things that we do as a startup as well. And if you talk about like growth marketing, we also run different experiments. So it's usually like a brainstorming where we also have idea chat in Slack, and then people drop different ideas. Then we try to put something together quickly, launch it, experiment, look at the results, and then based on the results, so the time frame, the KPIs, the metrics that we have set, look at the results and then see, okay, if this is something worth continuing and further developing, or drop it and move on to the next idea. So those are some of the things in terms of experimentation that we do, and yeah, product development. So I hope that was helpful.
And maybe also in addition to that, there was a question regarding Corona in the beginning of that presentation, and I also wanted to mention that the situation has completely changed from the beginning of last year. I can say from my traditional job, in comparison also to a growth channel, the situation has completely changed. Yeah, within the last year, the consumer behavior has changed completely. So it means companies need to reevaluate. They need to see how is the customer behaving now in the new situation, what is the consumer behavior, etc. All this needs to be incorporated then in the marketing activity, of course, but also in the product development, because the product might not fit then for that moment because stores are closed, etc. So you need to find new solutions. And like Maryna also said, in the startup business or smaller business, you are able to maneuver way faster than with the bigger companies. And what we are seeing is really great tools popping up, especially for online meetings, online events. It's amazing to see what is going on in that area.
Yeah, and also just talking about COVID, I actually was residing in Frankfurt area just a year ago, and then I came to US for an event, and then I got stuck here. So I'm still stuck here. So yeah, COVID did have an impact, but yeah, our team is fully remote, and we're trying to be all online and efficient. But I also see some interesting questions popping up here, so that's great. So let's go from the start. What inspired you to start Growth Channel? So yeah, that's a nice story. So that's basically 3 years ago, I was managing a team at Philips in Amsterdam for digital marketing, and we had basically to create new campaigns every almost 2 weeks for different content promotions that were going out, and every content launch needed its own kind of mini campaign promotion. And sometimes we even had to look at like annual marketing plans or even like quarterly, always on. So no. Do you guys still hear me? Okay, great. So during that time, we basically had to do all this marketing plans all the time, and it takes a lot of resources, research time, and the same process. Like, okay, you have to find information, put it together, share the presentation. Then we had to like have back and forth a few times. We did a few iterations of that, identifying different benchmarks and seeing if those different results and proposals were actually valid and relevant for us. So also verification part. So that for a year, and then I thought, okay, there must be a way because technology is rising so fast. Now there are more and more automations. Maybe there is a solution. So spoke with some of the colleagues, and they had a similar problem. Then try to speak with some technical people to identify, okay, if there is a possible actual solution for that, to automate things, and then basically started working on workflows and backend work for a few years. And we launched the prototype in February last year during the startup school from Y Combinator, which was a nice example actually from Mr. Bakker, as he mentioned, like put a video and like tell people about the idea and see if they're interested. So we did something similar, but without a video. We just had a form, say, hey, would you be interested? Here's information we need for the plan. And if you fill in, if you're interested, we'll give it to you for free because we are still kind of prototyping. And we had like 20 requests in a few days. So we're like, okay, that's interesting. Now let's continue. Let's continue working on this. And then we had in the startup community, basically, we had to speak with lots of people during the startup school. And in there, it became even a bigger problem within SMBs and the startup founders, because there's oftentimes like you don't do any planning and you just kind of run with something, or you run too fast with launching Facebook ads, spending thousands of dollars without exactly knowing what you should be doing. So there was even bigger problem within this segment. And we launched specifically for this. We did some pivoting during half a year, and then we launched in July with an MVP. So that's pretty much kind of the background story. I see another question regarding Trello. So yes, Uli, we use agile methodology for our team. So basically, it's we have different stages of the project development and product development as well. So it kind of passes through identification of the need first. We have the scoping. It goes into the backend to identify those workflows and opportunities. Then goes into the design for UX work, user experience, and then passing at the end to the front end. Then we do QA iterations, and then we launch. We launch twice a week. Before it was once in 2 weeks, but then we increased the frequency to more to make sure that we can experiment more and adjust faster. Also because our main audience are startup founders, and they're very demanding segment. So because they're also early adopters and kind of digital natives, so the expectations are high, and we need to make sure that the platform is updated fast as well. And then I see another question. Can you explain growth channel as case study, how you worked on developing your growth activity? Yes, sure. So we actually started from content and content partnerships specifically. So we knew that we wanted to build this growth library, which is kind of a marketplace of our own within the tool, which basically different like resources to help you through the marketing plan execution. And we are vetting it internally within our team. So we knew that we wanted to have that section because we wanted to give more kind of growth resources to our customers. So we said, okay, let's talk about that marketplace and interview a few great companies who we want to have there. We didn't have them yet, and we didn't even know their contact details. So we actually mentioned them. We talked a little bit about them in this initial case study. We promoted it on social and posted it on Medium as well. We tagged all those companies that we featured, and then 90% of those companies actually reached out back to us, said they would like to partner with us. They shared the story everywhere on their channels. and actually had lots of great visibility. And it was even featured on like Medium landing homepage and a few other categories, which was great. So this is how we kind of started developing the growth library and also got initial reach through those content partnerships. Another content partnership we did was basically asking a question within the startup marketing community, saying, okay, what are your best practices? And like 20 people answered their best practices. We picked 15 or 16 best ones, and then we made a story about it. And again, we tagged those 16 people when we shared the content, then they reshared with their friends, and it went a little bit more viral. So those kind of viral loops are very important, and also we didn't really have to do that much work. We just asked people for content and then reviewed it, edited some things within the introduction and the end, and published it, right? So there isn't that much work, so it was fast, it was collaborative, and at the same time it gave us lots of reach. So definitely I didn't try to identify those opportunities that are fast to implement, but also include this kind of collaboration and wider reach. I hope that answered the question. And tell us about the ecosystem you are in and how important is it? What kind of ecosystem? Do you mean like a market, like a segment? I think the question is from Mr. Bakker. So if it's about the market segment, then yeah, we are mainly operating with startup founders and small and medium-sized businesses. We also work with agencies and consultants who also then work with enterprises. So we target them as well with slightly different product proposition, which is more of a white label and more customizable solution. But for the startups and SMBs, it's mainly competitive intelligence, then the trends report. We have website audit part, personas, and then customer journey mapping with KPI benchmarks and budget suggestions. So that's mainly what our product is and the market for it that we work with right now. It might be that eventually we only focus at startups and agencies. As actually right now, that's our biggest market. We have less, I would say, SMBs and direct enterprises, but we work with enterprises via agencies mostly right now. And it's good, definitely opportunity for partnerships, because then you kind of pick one fish, right? Like one agency, and then they have more customers that they can resell your product to as well. And they also enjoy working more with the tool because it also increases their productivity and efficiency. So any other questions? Happy.
If I just may, thank you, Maryna. It's fascinating. You know, our project is sorry about that. You know, we're trying to facilitate an ecosystem for startups. That's what I was just dropped out for a minute. So you're in Austin, Texas, right?
Yes.
And it's kind of a famous startup ecosystem, you know, that you also read about. Can you tell us a little bit about that ecosystem? Because you talk, you know, when you talk, like, you know, all these methods that you use, and also for you know, the scrums, etc. That doesn't come from nowhere, right? It comes from because you are in an ecosystem and you are getting this from others, or you're not inventing it, right?
Yeah, so definitely, like for the last 3 years, as I started working on Growth Channel, I joined different startup communities, which definitely shaped a lot of the knowledge that I have, but also different software marketing communities are also great, and growth hacking communities. For people who are actually very interested in experimentation and growth hacking specifically, I'm going to recommend this one book. Which is I actually finished reading the other months because I just wanted to check out what they are saying there. But yeah, very good book. He actually also gives some good ideas in terms of growth experiments for viral effects, but also just once again reinforces the importance of retention, because you have to always remember that it's not just about acquiring the customers, it's also keeping those customers with you and make sure that they tell their friends and everyone else about you as well. So that's just like one very important aspect, and they really nicely explain that in their book. I'm going to share the name of the book in chat. Okay, I found it. Found the title. It's also available on Audible. So it's called Hacking Growth, How Today's Fastest Growing Companies Drive Breakout Success. So there are great examples from GitHub, from BitTorrent, from even like Dropbox, Airbnb, HubSpot, and many other basically successful companies. So definitely check it out. But yeah, in terms of the startup ecosystem, there is also this great community called Growth Hackers.com, which always shares some interesting insights. There are great communities on Facebook, as well as our own community, actually, that has already over 500 members on LinkedIn. So definitely join that one as well. It will come in, there's a link in slides at the end. So yeah, definitely like some of those places that share great case studies. They're amazing. And Growth Tribe Academy also, they have great videos on their YouTube channel. So definitely check those out as well.
All right, we have come to an end. Thank you all very much. Also, Jaffa, thank you for letting us understand your case in the Dutch-German context. And Philip, Maryna, Jaffa, all my colleagues here, thank you all very much for attending. We really have come to an end now, so everybody is traceable and everybody is findable. So if you want to contact us, please do. And it's really great to see how students develop to professionals and how we now learn from you guys. So that's really a great experience for us as well. Really, thank you so much. All the best, success with the growth channel, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you, everyone. It was great to be here.
Bye-bye.